Hey y'all, Immortal Mage back with another quick demo for Prism. This time we're going to be taking a look at the melt feature, specifically how it works with drum tracks. Melt on drum tracks lets you take the pitch from another tonal track, say your chord track, and play it out according to the rhythm that you set up in a drum sequence. What's fun is that you can play the output of this, rhythm tone mix out any other tracks, so it can go out the original tone track or to a bunch of others. You can then apply warps and filters on top to differentiate them from each other. This is easily one of my favorite features in all of Prism, and I'm really excited to show it to you. I'm also still working on this one, and well, it's out, but I'm still working on refining it and making sure that it's as seamless and quick and powerful as possible. So I'll be coming out in the next few days with the updates, but if you see anything you'd like added, just give me a shout out. All right, so here we are at Prism. I've got a default template loaded up. Behind the scenes, I've got a bunch of tracks already added, a few presets that I think sound good enough for this quick demo. And let's get started. The very first thing we're gonna do is make a simple beat and add some chords. These are gonna be our key ingredients for using Melt with drum tracks. So I'm just gonna make a simple, maybe like a house beat. And then I'm going to go to track 2, which I have connected with Synth Master. And I'm going to turn on my chord blocks, set it to 4 bars, set a resolution that lets us see everything on one page. And then we'll just lay down some chords real quick. All right, so now I can press play. All right, nothing crazy. So now we'll go back to track 1, and I'm gonna enter my percussion drum sequence. At least that's what I've got this one connected with. I'm also gonna lay down some quick trigs, and we're gonna use this guy for melt. So again, what melt lets us do when we add it to a drum track is play the notes from one track out any other track whenever that drum trig is hit. So I'm just gonna set it up so that, when the Synth Master, you've got the chords running and it hits this, it'll play that chord out of Dublin's track. And we're gonna use that to set up bass that follows this groove. So I'm gonna go to my sequence setup and I'm gonna select melt here. And the very first thing I'm gonna do is use the trigs to select my source track, which is gonna be Synth Master. Now I can use my keypad to select the output tracks. We're gonna use Dublin. So now I'll press play and we can hear the bass. It should play out the full set of chords, but because Dublin's a mono instrument, it's just doing whatever math it does to figure out, what's the one note I'm gonna pick. I wanna make sure it always picks the lowest note. So I'm gonna use this filter over here, which is the melt filter. And it applies, it runs the output of all these tracks through this filter before sending it to the track for processing. So we're gonna go to mono low. So now that we've got melt set up, we can go back to our drum sequence, and I'm just gonna extend it to 4 bars by long pressing here, a little shortcut, and add some other trigs. Melt's fun because it respects the length of the trigs and the velocity when they play. So you can use that to add variation and groove to whatever's happening. So we'll do that, and then on the 4th bar, we'll do like a fun little fill. All right. Ooh, set the velocity too low on some of these. You can always set velocity by holding this bar and tapping the trig. That's like a little shortcut. All right, so now we've got that. Pretty fun. Another thing we can do is we can go into Dublin, which is my bass sequence, and I can still add notes to the sequencer, and those will be played out along with the notes from my melt track. Actually, let's make these D. So now we get hold play, and we'll turn follow back on. Okay, and when you have this set up, you might, maybe you want to turn off and mute the bass. You can do that by just muting. Now we get none. but you might want to just turn off the notes that are playing from the sequence, but still keep that rhythm we had going from our melt. To do that, we can hold melt to access our additional settings and select external track through. This lets notes coming from external tracks, they'll still play even while mute is on. Another cool thing we can do is we can go back to our drum track, and I'm going to go into my percussion instrument again. I'm going to unlink the swing and humanize, and I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. And melt will also respect the mute and swing options. So now I'll add a little bit of groove to this rhythm, which will impact the bass rhythm. Oops. All right, so now let's go back to melt, and this time I'm going to add a second output track. I'm going to use chain mai to play some higher tones. It's, I don't know, I guess like a mallet instrument. So I'll press play and it's going to be hard to hear because we're filtering only the lowest note. And we don't want that, but we want to keep this filter on because, we don't want to change our bass track. So a cool thing you can do is melt always has 2 layers of filters, at least drum melt does. And we can select that using these up here. So first we'll select our target track, which is going to be chain mai, and I'm going to turn off this filter, and I'm going to turn on warp. So now I can go back to chain mai, and we can press play, and it's easier to hear because now we have the whole chord. We're also going to go to warp, and I'm going to turn that on. And then I can go and I can, add FX however I want. So we'll add a little bit of like art, because who doesn't like some art? We'll turn up the choke so it plays a little longer. And yeah, there we go. So now using the chords from our chord track and one of our, one of the drum sequencers, we're now controlling 3 different tracks with that, and you get a lot of variation that you can build on top of that using swaying and layering the sequencers and adding, all the FX and the warps and everything like that. Another fun thing that I really like about melt is that it's sticky in the sense, it's tied to whatever pattern the drum is on. So if I go back to my synth master chords and I load another pattern, and this time I'm going to generate chords randomly, I'll hear these new notes played out across, in the same way that we set it up before. And yeah, so that is basically, I think that's most of the fundamentals for how the drum pad or drum melt works. I'm still building this out and adding a few more features and cleaning it up. So if you have any ideas or you see something that you think would really fit into this workflow, please let me know and drop a comment below. I should be releasing, this already exists, but the cleaned up filters and everything, I'll be releasing that in the next day or 2. So yeah, if you've got any questions, always feel free to ask. Otherwise, happy playing and thanks for watching.